as you were talking, it was reminding me of that verse about, God blesses us with children, if we are blessed with children, that they're like a quiver of arrows that we, fire off into the world. But it made me think about the
Yes.
arrows, like back then, like we can take for granted. I archery hunt a little bit. You can just take for granted, you just buy an arrow from the store. But back then, like arrows were like, you know, carefully picked piece of wood, shaped perfectly, and really a ton of thought and effort were put into it before they were used.
Wow.
And it's like, our children are those arrows, and we as parents are shaping them and handcrafting
Yes.
them and helping them be prepared for that flight out into the world. And now it's like, that's got to be a
Yes.
little scary. Your children are like graduating from college, and
Uh,
you're in a different phase of life. I'm sure it's like it
yes.
sounds like you put a lot of effort into shaping your children, and it's just a good encouragement for us to, when these years, little ones are tougher, to like take the time to teach those skills. It was think it, say it,
Yes.
use it.
Think it or say it.
Think
Think
it or
it
say it.
or
Think
say
it
it.
So
or
So
think
say
it.
it.
sometimes
So you have to
you
choose. Yeah.
gotta choose
Yeah.
when
So if you're about to-
say it or
yes.
think it
Yeah.
only.
That's a cool thing to remember and teach, help our children.
You seem very self-reflective. Did you have other older moms in your life that helped you? Because fast forward now, you're an author of almost 6 books now, and so, what helped you along the way and to get thoughtful in these little tips, even from the young years?
Yeah. Oh, that is a great question. There were so many things. I do feel like there's more resources for young moms now. I mean, you and Adam, y'all are light years ahead of where my friends and I were at your age and with little kids. Like, intentional parenting was maybe a little bit of a thing. It just wasn't as much of a thing then. And so I do look back and I wish I'd had all of this then. But a lot of my lessons, one, were learned the hard way. Things that I did differently with my fourth child versus my first child. And that's what I want anyone watching this to take away, is that there's so much grace, and it just makes you realize how much you need God, because we get so many things wrong, but He can fill in those gaps. And sometimes we just do the best we can and have to leave the rest to Him. But that, I also think, just going to church, and that is something else I'm so thankful that my husband and I always stayed true to, because I mean, getting 4 little girls ready for church, there were so many days that I was just ready to quit, and I'm like exhausted by the time we get in the car, and I'm like, saying, thinking these curse words in my head. I'm getting them ready for church, and I'm like, this is so messed up. But yeah, the thought.
I think we can relate a little bit.
I'm like acting like a demon, and here I am. Let's go to church. But what I kept remembering, I remembered my mom. We had 5 kids in our family, and I remember my mom telling me one time, we were always at church. Now we might have been in the cry room, but I got you there. And that was always my goal. Like, we might end up in the cry room, we might end up in the back, we might not be in the sanctuary, but I'm going to get them there. And I'm so thankful, because like now my kids, I can take them to church, and they stop fighting you at some point when they know that that's just part of the deal. And even with what I do, I really feel like my faith, I mean, I was one of those lifelong Christians, but it really wasn't until I hit my 40s that my faith took off. And all those Sundays that I went to church, all those seeds that were planted, I mean, that's really when I started truly like opening my Bible, writing books, really getting into my faith. But it started with 3 big scares, several that involved my children, that truly like brought me to my knees. And one was my daughter, my youngest, has food allergies, and she had a major anaphylactic reaction that started swelling. I mean, I had to give her the EpiPen. It was really one of my scariest moments ever. And what happened was I had these scary moments. We also had a tree fall on our house, and it was a year of just crazy events. And what I realized was, like, the way you feel the next day after you have an event like that, when you're just like, oh, thank you, God, or, what can I do to reciprocate? I remember thinking, why am I not living like this every day? I felt like I was in a different frame of mind than I am in a normal day, because usually it's just praying for what I want, but then something like that happens, and my faith just took on a whole different level. And I remember thinking, I don't want my faith to feel different just because an emergency happened or a crisis happened. Like, I want it to feel the same before or after, that I was already engaging in God, my conversation with God before that. So anyway, like I said, it was a slow growth, and I'm still growing. And I feel like now my job is to really encourage these moms behind me, because I've made plenty of mistakes, but I think the younger moms behind me and even the ones behind y'all, they're facing such bigger challenges in raising kids today. And so I think there's so much pressure on them to get it perfect. And I'm really the last generation of parents that we didn't have social media. My oldest daughter was in first grade when I first heard about iPhones. So I really got to get my feet under me as a mom without comparing myself to every mother on the planet and hearing so much conflicting advice like moms do now. But that's why I think the truth is getting more and more important, because you can get 800 different opinions, but you have to keep going back to, okay, what does God say? What has always been true? And even in parenting, what has always been true? Just the same values of raising good kids, that will never change.